What seems like waste can become something beautiful. My name is Ebison Job,
My name is Reuben Phillip.
and you're listening to the Beautiful Waste podcast. So, we're doing this finally after some talks. We didn't have a long talk about it, it was very quick, but we're doing this. How are you feeling, Rube?
Yep. Feeling good. I'm feeling really excited. Feel like I feel like we had conversations offline, and
Right.
finally being able to bring the conversation to like people outside of our community, people around us. I'm really excited. Also a little nervous because I don't know if people want to actually listen to us. I don't know. I want to say we're not trying to compete with anybody. We're not trying
Right.
to
Yeah.
we're not trying to be better than anyone or like sound cooler. We're honestly just here. Like if you were
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
at the table, if you're sitting at the
Yeah.
across the table between me and Abby, and
Right.
yeah, just like as a friendship, man, just sharing things that we
Yeah.
talk about, things that God has been putting in our hearts. Yeah,
That's, that's so true. Because I guess, like, if I had to share a journey to the podcast, right? Like, even when I thought of doing a podcast, the first person that came to mind was you, because, like, we always had conversations like this way before we decided to do something like this, We always just randomly, when I was in Dallas, obviously. And I think even after I moved to India, like, we did have random FaceTime calls and whatnot. And we did talk about different
yeah,
things. So, I'm so glad that, we can just come on here and not have like a whole I need to impress Ruben or you need to impress me or whatever. But, we're just
yeah,
talking. And I hope that our conversations are a blessing to whoever's listening, whoever's watching. So, yeah, man. So
yeah,
that's like you said, we've done this so many times offline, but doing it
yep.
doing it while we're recording, there's like a little sense of I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I think we all feel that when we ever do anything new
yeah,
or anything that's like, especially like when if it's like to people that you don't know how people would receive it. So
right,
I
right,
think
right,
that
right.
that could be that sense that we might be feeling going into this, but also super excited. I know you're excited because of, maybe we were praying before we even started this podcast. So we think, even if it be like a word or something small
Yeah,
that
yeah,
could
yeah,
impact somebody who's listening to this. We don't even know. It could be one person listen to this podcast, or it could be all of our followers on our Beautiful Ways Instagram. But
yeah,
even if
yeah,
that one person leaves with a little insight or a little knowledge or something, a word that the Lord has been putting on their heart. I mean, that's why we did this, because
yeah,
this is a ministry for us, and this is a way for
yeah,
like we feel also not only just to bring people together, but not for the gospel, in order for the gospel
yeah,
to reach many people too. So, yeah,
yeah.
so we're
And
putting it in God's hands, right? We're putting it in God's
yeah,
hands,
for
and
sure,
and
for
just like
sure.
that little boy, if God's gonna multiply it, He's gonna do
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
what He will do with this. So, yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, you're
yeah,
the
man.
visionary, Emerson. You're the visionary behind this. I remember when
Nah,
you
man.
first came up to me, telling me about this idea. I don't know if I was one of the first people, but you definitely want to start a clothing line with Beautiful Waste, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
asked me to help design the first render of
yeah.
the alabaster jar.
Right.
And so I got to be a part of the journey of Beautiful Waste, and also just a part of your journey, like as friends together. Maybe we can go back.
Yeah,
Maybe we could start
yeah,
from our friendship
yeah.
and then maybe go into
You
Beautiful Waste.
you want to go back to the rap cipher days, the freestyle rap cipher? That's when I
Yes.
first met you.
Oh my, this is such an embarrassing story,
Wait,
but
that
no,
was the first time, right? That was the first time, right? That we met?
that was the first time we met, man, and that was the first
Yeah,
time like. Okay, so I was driving and I'm thinking about mine and Ebby's friendship together. And on this podcast, we'll be talking about things like our creativity. We'll be talking about things like things that we do. Sometimes it can be great
yeah,
ideas, sometimes it can be like terrible ideas. But we're
right.
just like, I don't know if that's the way God wired me and you, but also at the same time, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
God just always connects us as well.
yeah,
So,
for sure,
so
for sure.
the first time that me and you ever met was when I moved from Florida to Texas. I was a freshman in high school, and this was during the time everyone wanted to be. I guess people still want to be a rapper now. I guess I don't know, but everyone at that time wanted to be a rapper or like want to be make beats or be a producer. And I remember the first time I came to Dallas, I went to this ministry or this youth ministry called Impact at this church that I'm currently serving at, which is also another funny story. But then I met this guy named Ebison who looked just like me, his hair like blown out. I was like this skinny, scrawny kid with like a hoodie, oversized t-shirt, baggy pants, and I just remember after the youth
The
ministry was done, like
90s
a
hip hop.
90s hip hop. Everyone gathered together and everyone's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's make some beats. Let's like rap. And so this is the first, like, Christian rap was not even cool at that time. So the fact that me and Ebby
Yeah.
were like, hey, let's just try this. Let's do this for the Lord. And I just see Ebby rapping and I was like, who is this guy? Just
I
spitting
felt the same thing
bars.
about you. I felt the
Oh,
same thing about you. Because,
oh man.
I guess at least for me, I didn't really know a lot of Indian kids who did what I was interested in. And to
Yeah.
see another Indian kid to do that, I'm like, okay, who is this kid? And I actually thought you were visiting from Florida. I did not know that you moved because, I guess that's my first time seeing you. So I'm like, oh, he's this kid from Florida that who just came to visit or whatever. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
But that
what I
was
was
cool.
thinking. I don't know what I was thinking, man.
Yeah.
But we just had the confidence
Nah.
of just like rapping on stage, and then someone made like a CD, like a back in the days we had CD players to all of our Gen Z audience
Really?
that's listening. Yeah, like we had like the oh man, is it called? No, it's not called Walkman.
No,
I forgot what it's called. Someone made like a
CD
CD.
player.
Yeah, like a CD player.
Like a portable CD player. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So
No,
someone made
someone recorded our thing.
Yeah, someone recorded it. I think there
Oh
is
snap.
a digital copy of our rapping session
Oh
out there
dang. I
somewhere in
don't
the
know
world.
that.
And so I'm trying to
Oh
actually find
gosh.
that. I'm trying
If
to find it.
by
Yeah,
any chance, if you're listening to us and if you happen to have that digital copy, we would love to listen to it. So
me too.
I did
Maybe
not
we'll
even
put it
know
as an
that.
intro of our podcast. No,
And that is how you lose podcast listeners.
that's exactly how you lose people.
Uh,
But anyways, just to share that story, not to talk about our embarrassing, you know, life, but more to talk about how, like, I feel like that connection together was our first creative expression with each other, and that was
that's
the
true.
first time
That's
that
true.
like me and you ever met, you know, and we
Right,
God
right.
connected us that way. Then after that, it grew into our love for worship together, and we were able to like lead
Yeah,
worship together. And I feel like every season that we venture off into something new, God always connects us.
yeah.
And this
That's so
podcast
true.
being one of those things now, and who knows, like
That's so
in
true.
the next like 5 years,
Yeah,
we have some other crazy idea, and God's like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
upload this into Ebby's heart, and I'm gonna upload it into my heart, and then boom, like all of a
yeah,
sudden, like God connects us. So yeah, I just want to talk about that part
yeah,
of our friendship and how now we're
yeah,
here.
man.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because one of the crazy ventures that we went on was also record a podcast. Remember before
Mm.
podcasts were a thing?
Yep,
Like
I
I
remember.
think what 2018, 2017, something like that.
Yeah.
You were like setting up a studio at your parents' place because that's where you were. And we I think we just finished setting up and we were just hanging out and we did a podcast together and I don't know, it's in one of your hard drives.
It
I don't
is.
know where it is,
We had
but
to recover that digital copy somewhere as well. Yeah,
oh
no,
gosh.
we did the podcast
Yeah.
idea together. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
we did a lot of creative stuff together.
I
Yeah,
I kind of want to listen to that podcast again to see what we actually talked about back then.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
So
try to go and find
if
it
yeah, maybe if a bunch of our listeners say, maybe we can even upload it
on the.
on this podcast as like a throwback.
Yep, let's do that. Our beginning days. So now let's
Our
transition,
beginning
man.
days.
Tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about. I mean, I know you kind of talked about beautiful ways, but maybe tell me a little bit in depth of the beginning stages of it and where it is now
yeah, yeah,
and that journey. Yeah.
yeah. So if you have not listened to the trailer yet, it's on Apple and Spotify, they're kind of give you like a brief explanation of what beautiful waste is. So 2018, God put this thing on my heart about moving to India and just being a carrier of His presence in India and ministering to Him. And there were different things that God was teaching me in that season. But me personally, I already had my, they said the 5 year plan, the next 5 years planned out, where I was working, I was saving up to, put a down payment on my own place. And, the pressure from family was there about get married and all that stuff. And, there's so many things. So I was like planning out my life for the next 5 years. And that is when God puts this on my heart. And even for me, it felt like that move of going to India would have been such a waste in my life because it fit nowhere into the 5 years that I planned out for my life. And not only me, but there were even some people who were like, I don't know, like on a everyday basis, leaving everything that you already have, going to a new country. Even though I was born in India, I still did not have a lot of, connections here because I did live in America for a bit also. And that whole process, like it took me a year to debate with God, like so many different things, like, pray, debate, try to reject the idea. There were so many things. And in that process was something that God was teaching me from the life of Mary of Bethany, from the Bible, where she, out of her love, broke open her alabaster jar of perfume at his feet. And when she did that, everyone in the room were like, "What are you doing? Why are you wasting something that's so valuable?" Like they say, its value is a year's worth of wages, like a whole year's salary.
Yeah. Wow.
And she just like broke it open at his feet. And yeah,
Mm.
I'm sure even I don't know if she thought this, but maybe even she thought like, oh no, what did I just do? I don't know. Maybe if she did or she did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing I know is that one thing we know from the text is when everybody called it a waste, Jesus said, no, she's doing something beautiful unto me.
Wow.
And that's what I felt like God was speaking over my life at that
Mm-hmm.
season. And even just from then, there were so many decisions that I thought, oh man, this might be a waste of time, or this might be a waste of energy, or waste of resources, or whatever it is. But man, like just taking that step of faith,
Mm.
God really showed how beautiful this can be.
Wow.
And even this journey as the Beautiful Ways
Mm.
podcast, it might seem like, what are we doing? Another, like we talked about different ventures that we did,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. It could be one of those things. I don't know. It could be just like one or two things that we do, and maybe in the days to come might not exactly know where to go.
Yeah.
But we're just stepping out in faith and knowing that God's going to make something beautiful out of it. And like you said, even if it's just that one person who listens to this and gets encouraged to step out in faith, even when it feels like a
Yeah.
waste. And
Mm.
I hope that our conversations would remind them that it can be something beautiful,
Yeah. Wow.
And this journey also has not been exactly as I planned, because every step of the way, something new came along,
Mm.
and then God was showing how He can do. It's like it's not that one-time realization of, oh, what seems like waste is beautiful, but somewhere along the way, every time something new comes along, it's like, oh, I don't know if I should do that, but then God always brings it back to reminding me that it's something beautiful. Hope that makes sense. Did that make
Oh,
sense?
it,
I don't
it
know.
makes
I'm just
complete
speaking a
sense.
lot.
Yeah. And one thing I love is a play on words, which when Ebby brought the idea to me, like beautiful waste, it's like two contrasting words. Like how can something that is beautiful be a waste, and how something that is a waste be beautiful? And which
Yeah.
is so awesome to like, because in the human mind, that these words don't make sense, but in the presence of the Lord, it
Yeah.
makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, and as creatives, sorry guys, my just getting my thoughts, but as creatives, sometimes, or just as humans in general, sometimes we think when we do something, and we want to do it for the Lord, we're so worried about the outside perception of things. And what I love about
Mm,
the Mary of Bethany is the fact that she was able to do it in the presence of the Lord. She did it at His feet. She didn't worry about
Yeah.
Whoever was around him, who else was like saying the words that they had to say, all the critics that were
Yeah.
behind her. She was literally doing it for the Lord, and that word
Mm.
beautiful, right? I think the
Yeah.
Lord sees the things that we do, whether it be to us as humans the worst idea, to the Lord it's the most beautiful thing.
Mm.
So, any fear or
Yeah.
anything that you're feeling that you're holding back, that's a courage that we need to walk in with. When the presence of the Lord is with us, that's a courage
Yeah.
that we can carry, knowing that to us it might be
Mm.
we feel like bad, but when we give it to the feet of Jesus, He calls it beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I just love the
Yeah.
play on words, and that's instantly was something that I was like, wow, it's like something people can really take with them. Like, they like when they hear these words, they'll be like, wow, like anytime I do something, it's beautiful, even though to the world it might seem like a waste. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because I've not really thought about doing a podcast anytime in the recent past. But one there was a season of life where I was really once again at that point where I'm like, God, am I wasting my time in India? And from that season, my wife now, my fiance then, she was like, why don't you just write about whatever you're, feeling or processing through, and maybe you can just put it out there. Because I used to do that, but just for myself every now and then, whenever I had to process whatever's happening in life. I used to just take my notes and just write. So she kind of encouraged me to do that in a way where I publish a blog or something like that. So I think she went through my notes someday and she's like, "This is so good. You need to like put it out there for the world to read." And and that's kind of how I started writing. So before this, I don't know if you knew, but I still have a blog page where I was writing different things, and once again, from a place where I thought I was just wasting my time, to that blog becoming a blessing for so many people,
Mm,
because I've received so many messages from people saying that, man, like I was so blessed by what you wrote, that was so relatable. And, that was such a great
yeah.
reminder. And so, yeah, I was writing for a while, and then, I don't know, all of a sudden I just felt like this break in being inspired to write, and I really did not know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And once again, it came back to a point of like, God, is my life a waste right now because I really cannot inspire people through my writing? I don't know what to
Yeah.
write, and all these questions started coming up. And I was just talking to my pastor here in Hyderabad, Pastor Joy, and I was just asking her, like, this is what's going on in life, and she's like, why don't you try doing something else creatively? Like you did writing, but at the moment you're not feeling like writing. So why don't you like switch up the means of your expression? And it was then while I was just riding on a bike here, that's when this idea of doing a podcast came along. And like I said, the first person that I came to mind was you, because I cannot just do this by myself. I cannot talk by
Right.
myself. Like I need to have another person, and uh, I felt like we already do this anyway. So, yeah, man. So that's kind of how this podcast came about. And once again, we're just bringing this at the feet of Jesus, like you said, and just waiting for him to make this beautiful. So,
That's
yeah.
good. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even just
man.
continuing, sorry, I just, we get our random thoughts, but even just thinking about
Yeah,
that
no,
story
no.
too is like
Yeah.
when you were doing all this stuff, the transformation was for you, you know? It was like
Mm,
when we do things, obviously people around us get to experience that transformation. But when she was breaking that jar in
right.
front of the feet of Jesus, transformation was for her, and the people around her got to experience
Oh,
it.
yes.
You know, and just like
Yeah.
I don't know who
Yeah.
did this analogy. I don't know if you're telling me, but like even the fragrance filling the room, like that, the perfume,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that fragrance just permeating the people around them. They could have done that themselves. They could have,
Mm,
they could have broken the alabaster
yeah.
jar themselves, but she got the opportunity to do that, and her life was transformed. So most of the time, it could
Right.
just be for us. That
Yeah.
that
That's so
transformation
true.
could
That's so
just be
true.
for us. But if it's something that other
That's
people
so
get to
true.
see, they get to also experience that transformation power in the presence of
Yeah.
Jesus. So yeah,
I guess that's a big factor too, right? Like, because I think in the beginning of this podcast, one of the things that we both were kind of a little bit nervous about was to see if people would actually want to, listen to this or hear this or something like that. And I feel like that's a big fear in many people who want to actually start something that God put on their heart. Is like, will people actually want to be a part of
Yep.
this? Like, or would people even appreciate this?
Right.
And like you said, many times it might not be for the people, it might be just for you. And then out of that overflow, people might
Yep.
receive something. And, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, man. So
And
that's so
that's
cool.
why we're here.
That's really good.
That's why we did this. Yeah, no, I love it.
That's why we're stepping out
Stepping
in
out of
faith.
faith. Hey,
Yeah.
man, yeah, that's good.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, I just wanted to ask you, like, have there been places in your journey creatively or in whatever way where you felt stuck, and have you done, like, what have you learned from that, and how did you manage through going over that being stuck?
Yeah. No, thanks, Abby. Man, if I'm being honest with the people who are listening, yeah, I think this is something that
Yeah,
every creative struggles with. I think we all have a feeling of being stuck. I don't know how much time we have, so I'm going to limit my answers, but maybe in one episode,
no, it's
maybe
fine.
we
It's fine.
can
Go ahead.
spend longer time talking about being creatively stuck. But definitely, I think this is
Yeah,
something that we all struggle with. And if you don't struggle with it, maybe uh, I don't know, you're supernatural. I don't know, you have a gift or something. But I've experienced myself being creatively just exhausted sometimes, and we talk about this all the time, and we probably talk about this in our podcast. But like, God gives us different expressions of creativity in different seasons, and that's just
right. That's
different
so
forms
good.
of worship. I don't think we're created to worship the
Yeah.
same way. I think we are created to express
Ooh,
ourselves in different ways. So like we experience different characters of Jesus, of different characters of God through our different expressions of
yeah.
creativity. So if you're feeling like you're stuck,
That's really
I
good.
want to encourage you, one, maybe try a new creative venture. If you're like a songwriter, maybe you're a
Yeah.
painter, maybe try doing something else. I try to always do that. Like I try to like be like, man, I can't
Yeah.
just be stuck in this
Yeah.
uh, one idea. I can't be stuck in this one thing that I always do. I got to find something else that can bring me excitement, can bring me joy, can bring me life back again. And then maybe you go back to that thing that you felt like you're stuck in.
Yeah.
Another thing is just finding
Yeah.
rest for
Yeah.
yourself. And I'm not just talking. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
not just
that's so
talking
good.
about just like taking a rest from your computer or taking a rest from whatever you're doing that's creative. I'm talking about either spending time with the Lord or turning off your brain, like turning off your
Mm,
mind and being because
mm,
as creatives, I want you guys to understand this concept is that you're using a lot of your brain. Like just like you exercise your muscle
mm.
and your muscle gets fatigued, you're using a lot of your brain. So when your brain is tired, you
Yeah.
cannot expect yourself to be creative. You're pushing yourself to a limit, to a point
Yeah.
where your mind can't even go there. So you need to turn off your mind by doing something else. Either be around community, be around friends, do something you
Yeah.
love to do that doesn't take a lot of effort and it doesn't exhaust you, and do these things and come back to being creative, especially when talking about community. As me as a creative, I never thought community helped me be creative, but then being around
Yeah.
community helps me to like collaborate, gives me inspiration, gives me
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
motivation to go and be creative again. Just like this, like me and Evie just talking to each other makes me want to go
Um,
and like do something or like write a
right.
song or make a graphic. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
then these moments are
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
make us who we are. And God never wants us to be in
Yeah.
loneliness. God never wants us to be by ourselves. So if we feel like our creativity is just by ourselves, then we're also limiting our capability of what we can do for the Lord. So the Lord wants us to be in community, and He wants us to do these things.
Wow.
And within all of these things, I also want to encourage you guys that, sorry, bro, like set boundaries for your creativity. Yeah,
No, go
set
ahead.
boundaries for your creativity and like what you do. Because if you don't set boundaries for your creativity, it could be like being in an abusive relationship. And here's what I mean. When I was a creative
Mm,
growing up, I thought that I can go to sleep at 5 o'clock until I'm done writing that song or I'm done doing editing that video. but I was not taking proper rest. I wasn't taking good care of myself, and I was burning myself
Oh,
out as a creative. And what I realized is that my creativity turned into something that was not healthy for myself. And I started to resent my creativity when
wow.
creativity was actually given to us by God. So what I had to do was I had to create boundaries
Yeah.
for my creativity, tell myself that I'm going to sleep at 11 o'clock. And even if I didn't finish that idea,
Wow.
I'm going to come back to that idea later. I would go to sleep at 11, then I'll wake up at 5 o'clock, and then my mind will be refreshed. I'll have new ideas, and then I'm able to create. I'm able to continue where I left off. But I think sometimes as creatives, and I don't know if you relate with this, Abby, and maybe I can
Wow.
hear your thoughts. Like we do not put proper
Yeah, yeah.
boundaries on our creativity, which makes us resent what we do.
Wow.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
yeah,
for me too. I feel like I
yeah,
received that word, man. Like, because yeah, sometimes it's so easy to get carried away with creativity or whatever. But like you said, if you don't have proper boundaries, oh man, like I'm still processing that because that was really good. I don't know who is it for me, but I know it's for me. So
yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
awesome.
And I
I
think
love
that's why
that. I love
people
that.
sometimes feel like they're stuck because they have to always find a solution to their creative. They have to feel like they have to find a
Oh,
solution to their creativity. But like that's the awesome thing about creativity is like you
oh,
don't know where you might venture off to, you know? Like it
yeah.
and if you're talking about in the realms of like as a Christian who's creative, it's like we talk about a journey. And if you're having a journey with the Lord, there's a beautiful picture that I see about the Lord, and it's like in his if you see the rooms that God has created for you, it, you will never see every corner of what he has to show you. Meaning that every time you look at the Lord, you see different characteristics about him. You see different corners of the room. It's not like four like if I look
Mm-hmm.
in this room right now, I see four corners. But when I look at who the Lord is, like every time I
Mm,
turn my face, I see a different corner of the room. And I just keep seeing different corners of the room. That's how our
wow.
creativity also is with the Lord, is that he never wants you to come to a solution. He wants you to continue being creative. And so if you feel like you're being stuck and because you're trying to find a solution, then maybe you need to rethink like who you are as a creative. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just how do you process that, Abby?
Wow. No, that's that's so good. I'm still trying to just process what you just said right now. Every time you see the Lord, you see a whole new side of Him. And I've heard, I forget who said this, but somebody was like, the angels are always crying, holy, 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 because it's like every time they see Him, they
Hmm.
see a whole new side of Him. And the only expression that they could come out with was like, holy,
Yeah,
holy.
yeah.
And, yeah, so man, that's crazy. And I'm just trying to see how that translates into us being creative. Like, I guess I would have never thought of even doing this podcast if I just stuck with, I need to
Hmm.
find a way to
Hmm.
write, you know.
Wow.
Maybe doing this podcast was turning
Yeah.
in a corner and saying, "Okay, God, what do you have for me now?" And God put this idea of a
Yep.
podcast in my
That's it.
mind, you know.
Yep. That's it,
Wow.
man.
Yeah. So if you feel like you're stuck, look to the Lord and let Him lead
Yes.
you to a next corner. Uh, or if He wants to, if the Lord wants to give you a
Yeah.
solution, He might, But yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's really good. Oof, I'm like still being ministered
Oh
by that
no.
right now.
Honestly, like these are just thoughts that I feel because
Uh,
as like we are introspective as humans. We try to figure out why we feel this way or
yeah,
why we have this emotion or
yeah,
why is these things not making sense in us. But I think like when we
mm,
look at the perspective of what the Lord wants for us, it makes complete sense. you know and I guess this
mm,
goes back to what we were talking
wow,
about beautiful waste, right? Like to the world is not make sense, but to the Lord it's beautiful.
hmm,
So if you ever feel like right now you're listening right now and you feel discouraged or you feel
yeah,
like, man, I don't know what the Lord has for me, I promise you that the Lord has something for you, and whenever that season comes, it's going to be beautiful. So I hope you receive that,
Yeah.
because these are thoughts that I
Wow.
wrestle with, and I'm pretty sure Abby, you wrestle with these thoughts in your alone time and
Yeah, yeah, for
when
sure,
you're
for
alone with
sure.
the Lord as well. Yeah,
I do, I do.
definitely.
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest things that creeps up even during that time of feeling stuck or
Mm,
whatever is comparison, right? Especially because we live especially because we live in this whole social media world, and I'm sure many people talk about it. You know, it's like we look at other people and what all they're
mm,
accomplishing, and how creatively they're doing their crafts or whatever it is, and you're looking at yourself, and I'm like,
yep.
what am I doing? So yeah, man. So I guess that's a big thing is to compare. The comparison game
Yeah.
is super dangerous, and just keep asking the Lord, what does He have for you? Because the Bible promises that all His plans for us are good and for us to prosper. So anything that doesn't feel good,
Mm,
it's not God. So yeah, man. So I guess. I don't know. I was just thinking of what are some things that I would think of during that time, like when I'm not feeling all that creative or all that productive
mm.
or something like that. And comparison is one thing that comes to mind. What do you think? Like, do you have any other
Oh,
things that
yeah.
come to mind?
Yeah. Comparison, being overly critical, uh, not feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, that's being overly critical.
Yeah.
That's
Being
another
over,
good one
like being
too.
tough on yourself. Like, yeah,
Because,
that's, yeah. Um,
yeah. Because I I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and I could definitely go like, oh man, what we're doing is not up to like that level, but forget that this is our first podcast and that's their like
yes.
10th year doing the
Dude, I'll
podcast
be
or whatever.
honest with
So
you, Abby, because we're being honest with each other. Right before we started this podcast, I listened to 4 or 5 podcasts, and I was like, "Huh, how, what? How did they ask questions?" Or, yes, like, how did they ask questions?
comparison.
How did they carry themselves on the podcast? So what is So yeah, definitely, I think it's a human response. I think it's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
because that again going back to community, but community, if not done in the right way, can be actually really dangerous. So comparison is one of those things. Comparison,
yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah,
people being critical of your craft, or people not making you feel worthy or making you feel insecure. These are like the dangerous signs of community. But if you look at something like, if someone's listening to this
mm,
podcast or I listen to another podcast, I can gain inspiration from that. I can listen to one of my friends and they can
mm,
release a song, and rather than being like, "Oh man, like what I do is not going to be good enough," or he's just so good, he's just too good. I'm not even the same league. If I don't think like that and just be like, "Man, I when he does something and I'm inspired to do something," that's actually way more healthier than thinking
yeah,
about it in a way of comparison. And I don't know where we've
yeah,
drew that line of like we have to be divided, uh, like, or we have to
yeah,
um, like look at someone else's craft and like do something better or like be the best. I don't know where that came from, but I think that also can
mm,
hinder many of us from like releasing our gifts, releasing our talents, and giving it to the Lord. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, and we can always go back to scripture.
when you
Yeah.
say that when you say that, something that comes to mind for me is
Mm,
the spirit of competition. And I know the world sees it as the greatest thing to be competitive and all that stuff, but I feel like when you're competitive, you
mm,
automatically start to compare. And once you start to compare, like like how you said, all these different things of, you're not actually focused on what is God calling you to do. You're automatically focused on who's doing it
yeah.
better than me. How can I be better than them? It's never about you're doing this because this is something that you love to do. It always
Yeah.
becomes about, you know, I want to, be better than them. Or if you feel like you cannot be better than them, oh, I'm
Mm,
never going to reach to that standard. So let me just,
yep.
not do anything at all. So just, I don't know, like me personally, I've never been so much of a competitive person. I have like if I'm doing something, it's because I love doing that or I enjoy doing that. It's not, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like competitiveness
Yeah,
and how that leads to
I don't have that nature,
whatever I said right now.
because of just like broken relationships that I've experienced through competitiveness. Like, I was overly competitive when it came to sports, and which is I'm glad that the Lord taught me about this at a young age. That uh, is it more worth it to feel like you are alone in this and you're like the best, or is it better to do something with people and be in community with those people? So like, I don't know if that's making sense to our audience, but what I'm trying to say is like is that
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
a lot
it
of
does.
broken
Yeah.
relationships that came from me being overly competitive. And I value the like later in life, I value the
Wow.
relationships more than whatever achievements or accomplishments, self accolades that I would have for myself. um, and it takes a lot of humility, I feel like,
Mm.
and it's not something that I'm personally used to, because when I moved from Florida to Dallas is when I, and Ebby knows about this too, but there was like talent competitions, who's the best church, like when it comes to sports, who's the best worship team, and who has like, all these things. And like, I would tell my parents, I was like, I don't want to be a part of any of this stuff. I was like, I will memorize the Bible
Yeah,
verses,
yeah,
but I don't want to go against somebody else to see who can memorize the most Bible verses, because we're literally
yeah.
teaching kids the wrong concept of having a relationship with the Lord. And so I had to
Exactly,
withdraw like this like sense of competitiveness
exactly.
away from myself. But then I also realized like co- competitiveness is, it's healthy, like meaning that even in scripture, like it says that there's a goal that we're trying to achieve. There's something that we're trying to strive, that we're trying to go for.
Mm,
But it's when we try to turn against each other and like we're
mm,
divided, and it's like one person against each
mm,
other. That's when it becomes really dangerous. You know, that's when it becomes like the goal is not to, uh, you know, when the enemy comes to destroy the enemy or like take the enemy out, we're actually destroying each other. And that's exactly what the enemy rather would
yeah,
see, for us to be divided than for us to be
once.
joined together in one goal. And so, yeah, it's such a weird thing for me, man. And I feel like for me, I had to. It's like a filter.
Mm,
You have to turn it off. You have to turn it off. You have to humble
yeah,
yourself. Like if you feel like, man,
yeah.
there's like a sense of like jealousness, or like you feel like something
Oh,
is creeping up in you, inside of you, you got to turn it off. You got to be like, this is not from the Lord. This is not from
mm,
the Lord. And so I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it just takes a lot of
mm,
humility, man. And
yeah,
yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy, but this is definitely what I
yeah.
feel the enemy tries to do,
That's
right? And in John 17, it even says that what is
yeah.
Jesus the Lord's prayer before he goes? He says that for my people to be united, and then the greatest weapon of the enemy in each of our
Mm,
lives is to divide us, you know. And so
mm,
when it comes to being
yeah.
creative, or like doing something together, if we feel like even as brothers in Christ are divided, then that's the goal that the enemy is trying to achieve in each of our lives. So yeah, just guys, just be careful. Just be careful. Just check your heart. Just know that you have a plan and you have a
Yeah,
purpose, so you don't have to worry about other people's race. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, man.
yeah,
And that's so good. So good. I hope people are being
yeah,
blessed by this conversation like I am. We would definitely like to know what your thoughts are on these topics. So if you want to message us
yeah,
through Instagram or YouTube comments or whatever it is, like we would
yeah,
definitely want to
definitely.
know what your thoughts are. So thank you so much for taking your time to listen to the Beautiful Waste podcast. We would love to hear your thoughts on it. So please leave a comment or a review and like, share, subscribe so more people can get to know about it.